All right, so welcome to the breakdown. I am your host, Tamara J. Madison, and the breakdown is a show where we talk about amazing people doing amazing things to serve others and uplift the earth, right? So today, my guest on the show is somebody that I've known for a good little while, right? Mr. Joseph L. Jones, the Mound Builder. Okay, so that's what we're going to jump into right away so that we don't waste too much time. So, welcome to the show, Mr. Jones. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing very well since I'm on this show.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. Are you flirting with me, Mr. Jones?
A little bit, a little
Oh,
bit.
just a little bit, just a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's get into this mound building thing, right? First and foremost, what is a mound builder?
A mound builder speaks to the ancient ones that actually built civilization, society, sciences, arts and services, structures, temples, and people. So they are the original and indigenous builders of our land.
Original and indigenous builders of our land. What land
Yes.
are you speaking of, Mr. Jones?
I'm I'm speaking of the Americas, I'm speaking of the entire earth. Each person represents a aspect of that mound building power. So every person has a stake in that mound building. So it is all of our responsibility to build constructively, to think constructively, and to help uplift people, just as your show speaks to.
Okay, so you're making me jump ahead a little bit into not question number two, but question number three. Okay, so first, I didn't intend on asking this question, but I'm going to have to. You said the Americas. What are the Americas? What do you mean the Americas?
North, South, and Central America. It is one considered to be one continent, but there are different parts of that one continent if we're going to use that structure of determining what this landmass is.
Okay, okay. All right, and I noticed you said indigenous people too, but I think that's going to be another show. So, for those who are totally new to this, you said that mound building is about building and creating an uplifting civilization, right? Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, there are many people out there that might be watching this that might say, okay, but we're already civilized. We've already built a whole bunch of stuff. So, is there a purpose for a mound builder now, or is the mound builder just an ancient kind of thing that we've already passed? Is there still a need for it?
Well, my understanding is that mound building and building is something that is continuous and ongoing. It's never just a one-time thing, whereas one person builds a structure or a program and then just walk away from it and it's done and nothing else has to be done for time immemorial.
Mhm.
We have to understand that we are, speaking specifically to myself and what my mission and my role is, I am a continuation of these ancient mound builders. So my responsibility is to continue the work of building, helping, instructing, and establishing. That's part of what my role is. My belief is that that is the role of each individual. In fact, that is my knowing, that that is the role of each individual who embraces the concept and the idea of a mound builder, is to continue to grow, inspire, motivate, create, and build something better than what we have seen in the past and what we are looking at in the present.
So you're not just talking about structures and institutions, etc.
Absolutely not. The first structure and the first temple is actually the human body. That's the first temple. And so that's where I start in my mound building process with people, helping them to build a better version of themselves
Mhm.
so that they can see a structure erected that is symbolic of what they have envisioned and what they want, as opposed to images and ideas that have been force fed to them. And they actively take a hand in creating that.
Mm,
That's what I'm about.
okay. All right. So before we move too far away to that into the next thing, I do want to rewind just a little bit. You said something about descending from ancient mound builders. Do you mind sharing with us some examples of who some of the ancient mound builders might be?
Well, they go by numerous names. Whether you want to use the name of the Egyptians, the Mayans, which is really an extension of the culture of the Olmecs, or you want to look at some of what is called Greek culture or the great Ethiopians. There are numerous names of these mound builders all over the world.
Mhm.
But here in America, particularly North America, and this area, we focus more on what has been called Indian, Mayan, Olmec, Cherokee, whatever name one wants to use. These are the indigenous mound builders in the area where we are.
Mhm.
If we want to talk about an example of an indigenous mound builder, one name comes to mind is Imhotep, which is one of the names that I carry. He's an ancient mound builder coming out of the Egyptian pantheon and is considered to be one of the original builders of the pyramidal structure. And I use that structure, the structure of the pyramid, in my work because that is very symbolic of how we build upward from where we are. So I would say that that's an example of one ancient mound builder.
So, okay, so you know I'm a poet, right? So I'm going to get a little bit into the imagery with things. So basically,
Beautiful.
the mound moving upward and the pyramid moving upward, they're kind of like parallel structures in terms of growth and elevation and that type of thing, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was correct with that. So, that
Parallel, but meeting at a point.
okay, then it would be better to say that they are reflective of one another. Because if things are parallel, they never ever meet. So they are reflective
They
of
never meet. Right.
different cultures. So that would be a better word for me to use, right?
Right.
Okay, all right. So that brings me to the next question. So we're talking about all of this ancient stuff. I shouldn't say stuff, but we're talking about our ancient elders and that type of thing and ancient history. And here we are in 2020, of all things, in the middle of what's supposed to be a pandemic and all of this. And I'm talking to the mound builder, right? So before we get to the mound builder, I want to ask you, what was your journey to become a mound builder? Where did you first hear about that? What did you do? What was it that connected to you? What chord did that strike in you and made you decide to pursue that knowledge, as well as that, I guess the best word to use is that calling?
Well, that would be a series of shows.
Okay.
But to try and make that as succinct as possible, when I look back at what was the catalyst in terms of me moving more into that mound building energy, the best way that I could describe that is to say that it was as a result of a
Mm.
recognition of where we are as a people, where we are as a society, where we are in terms of our thinking and intellectually, and what it is that we have thus far established. And when I look at all of those things at that time, and I look at our plight and what we were struggling with, and some of the things that we are still struggling with, that caused me to go back in time and to look at where this struggle first began, and then begin to look more at remedy as opposed to looking at the results of where we were. And as I look at the remedy speaks more to the mound building energy. A person taking responsibility for where they are, taking responsibility for where a civilization or a society is, and beginning to make steps to move towards a place where it is an acceptable civilization, a civilization worthy of living, and a civilization worthy of the history that we come from.
Okay, wait,
That
so I'm
is
gonna have to
more.
stop you. Wait, I gotta stop you for just a second. You jumped my gun a little bit because you mentioned where we are or where we were at that time and our plight, right? Would you
Mhm.
mind just briefly
Right.
sharing a little bit what you consider to be the plight, right? Um, Before you share the remedy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. When I speak of a plight, I speak more of a disconnect.
Mhm.
And when I say disconnect, I mean you're talking about a society that's disconnected from their history, they're disconnected from their culture, they're disconnected from the understanding of who their elders were and who their elders are, what they represented, how they led, what they established. All of these things are essential in terms of the development and the building of a people, as well as the development and the building of a mind. Mound building first started in the mind. Everything is created twice, once in the mental and the spiritual realm, then it takes form in the physical realm. But if there's that disconnect where you can't connect with your past, or you're not connecting correctly with that mental and with that spiritual realm, then you find yourself in a place where you're disconnected. You're not able to make the right type of allegiance and commitments and dedicate yourself to what the great ones in times past has dedicated themselves to. So that's the disconnect that I speak to in terms of our plight and where we found ourselves and where we continue to find ourselves, and how it is so much more important now to continue to build steps, not to the past, but to the future, and first to the present and the present forward, as we like to call it, the now forward or the now time, this time extending from this point. We're not interested in going back, we're interested in where we are now and building from that place so that what comes forth after us will have that connection intact and they won't have to suffer that same type of disconnect.
So, for people who may be listening to this and they might be totally clueless to what you're talking about, just give me an example of what disconnect might look like in our time where we are right now. What does disconnect look like?
Right now, disconnects look like people who are consumers of products,
Mhm,
but they're not producers of products. They're not understanding that the products that exist comes from the earth, which is where we all come from. And we're disconnected from the earth, and we're disconnected from that creative mechanism. We're disconnected from that farming mechanism because nothing is farmed anymore. So farming helped to produce a connection with the earth from which we all sprang from.
mhm,
The disconnect today looks like symbol, but no substance, where we have the ceremonies, we have the outward forms and the trimmings and the regalia, but the concepts and the depth of what that actually mean and what that's actually attached to, nowadays that is missing. There's a disconnect there. There's a disconnect between the leaders and the people, and the leaders not understanding that in order to be a good leader, you first have to know how to follow and to be a good follower. of something, whether it's your own agenda that resonates with the people or a higher agenda that you're an extension of. There's a disconnect there in the leadership and the people, where the thoughts and the leadership that is being put in front of us is not meeting the needs of the people that the people who are leading say that they're leading. So that's the disconnect as well. There are countless examples of the disconnect, but this is some of what we speak to more from an individual perspective as opposed to a mass perspective, because it's more about personal responsibility and being connected inwardly. And that's more of what I speak to, as opposed to trying to solve so many external issues of a system that's on the way out. So those are examples of some of the disconnect that we find ourselves facing in these times.
So what good is that going to do? If I focus on my internal mound building, right? And there's all of this chaos and all this madness going on in the world, and my focus is my internal mound building. What good is that going to do for somebody who's sitting out there listening, that's talking about that's not going to make any difference in the world? How would you respond to that?
Well, there's a saying that you have to be the change that you want to see. So it always starts with the individual, whether it's a movement, whether it's a government, whether it's an idea, a concept, a religion, it starts with one. It only takes one. And generally, people in mass are followers, and they tend to gravitate to and flow around that one idea, that one person, that one concept, etc. So everything always starts with one. In the beginning, there was one, and then the one became many. Whether we believe in the atom concept or the concept of the atoms within our body, it all starts with one. So we have to look at ourselves, and when we mound build it, when we grow, and when we evolve, when we connect properly, then we'll begin to see the connection with all other things that are around us. Mm-hmm. So it starts with ourselves. It starts first with a commitment to make that connection and to build and to grow and to evolve. And then once we make that commitment, and once we begin to embody that commitment, then what we'll find is that other people around us will see that light, gravitate to that light, and become part of that process as well. But it first has to be a commitment of one person making that decision to do that, and then shining that forth so that everyone else can see that.
Okay, so this is such a wonderful segue, right, into my next question. How do you embody that commitment? How do you personally embody that commitment?
That is a decision and a commitment to connect with the greatest and the highest part of yourself. Once you do that, once you make that commitment, then everything else comes after that. But first you have to make that decision that this is what you want to do, that this is important enough to embody. And sometimes what that involves is kind of turning your back on or turning away from some of the influences and some of the ideas that the world continues to project to you, and turning inwardly so that you become a projector or a reflector or an embodier of the concepts and the beingness that you truly are. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it starts with. It starts with first making that commitment and deciding that this is something that I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to embody.
Okay, but my question was, how do you do that? You just shared
that's how
we do it, but how do you do that?
That is how I do it. I made the decision to embody the concepts and the ideas of the great teachers, the ancient ones, the wise, that have come forth from the great divine. And I made the decision to walk in that line of those great ones to bring into existence in this now time those same concepts in a modern day form. So the building processes and the mound building that I do and the mental work that I do and that I teach and that I instruct in is lined with those great ones who have done that in the past. And I am a continuation of that. So it's basically my decision to do that. And I help others to make the decision to do the same thing.
Okay. So I get the feeling that this is not like a one-shot kind of thing, like, you know, a 4-year degree or something like that, right? It's an ongoing process, would you say? Until death.
It's a life process. It's not a one and doneer. It's a life process. It's a journey literally that never ends.
Mm-hmm.
It's an ongoing journey. And as long as you are alive and you are inspirited with breath, then this is a process that you will continue on. You'll continue to grow and evolve and move as long as the energy flows through you and as long as you continue to embody it and continue to make that decision to do it.
So how has this been, like, taking on this calling and this journey? How has it been a blessing to you individually or personally? You shared with us like a lot more about how it benefits society, how it benefits our communities and that type of thing. How has it blessed you personally?
Personally, it has been what I would call a lifesaver because the world can be rather dark. Mm-hmm. Or it can be seen as rather dark. And there's a lot of things that happen in life where you're going to need something more than what this world gives you in order to get through. And there's been spaces that I've had to get through that I would not have gotten through if I did not have this type of understanding, knowing, and the spirit of some of those great ones, the ancestors and the great divine, the Lord, God, whatever name one wants to assign to it, to help to guide, direct, and to forge me through some of these places that I couldn't have gotten through with my own ego and with my own earthly understanding. So the concept of mound building and the challenges and the experiences and the victories that have been gained by the great ones in the past has served as fuel for me in the present to move forward and kind of navigate around a lot of issues and even get through some situations that were rather dark and that a lot of other people have not gotten through, did not get through. And I'm one of the ones who did, so I'm grateful for that.
Okay. Okay. All right. So if the medicine is that good, right? How would you suggest, if someone out there is listening and is curious and is a chord has been struck for that person and they feel like, okay, I need to find out more about this. I'm not sure if I'm ready, but something in me is telling me that I need to find out more. What would you say to that person who is curious, and when I say curious, I'm not just talking about in terms of a fad or like, oh, this sounds like something. I'm not talking about anything like that. I'm talking about that person who really does feel like a genuine chord has resonated. That's something that has been nagging and gnawing at them for a while. It's coming up now. The hairs on their neck are standing up, or they're getting those goosebumps, or they're feeling something. And they know that something about you and what you're talking about is familiar. What would you suggest to that person in terms of taking a next step, or even following their curiosity? What would you suggest to that person?
Well, there's numerous types of experiences and people. You have some people who have always known from their earliest remembering that they were different and that they resonated with something that was not reflected in their outside world. You have other people who are now beginning to wake up and understand that they have and that they are seeing the world differently. The things that they have been doing is not working. It has not been producing the results that they best desire.
Mhm.
So with both of those cases, what I would say to them is what I say to people that I work with and that I speak to, is that you have to start where you are. And that starts with an evaluation. Evaluate where you are right now in your life. Evaluate what's working and what's not working. Evaluate what you're seeing, and if what you're seeing is what you want to see, or do you really need to get in the process of creating something different?
Mhm.
So it starts with the first step would be making that evaluation. And for anyone and everybody that's at that point that really wants to evaluate where they are, that's where I start. So feel free to reach out to me and I can help to walk you through that process so that you can begin to see how where you are is either working or not working, how your frame of mind and the thoughts that you're thinking are either working in your favor or working as a curse against you. You know, it's not so much, many times people talk about external curses and people doing the roots and working certain types of magic and all that type of stuff. But the real curse, and the first one, is the thoughts that we think every day.
Mm.
Really, it's my job is simplifying the complex. A lot of this stuff really isn't complex. It's really very simple. It's just a matter of understanding how it works. And that also comes as a result of the evaluation. So evaluating where you are, evaluating the circumstances that we're living in, evaluating what you're seeing, what you're thinking, and then most importantly, what you're feeling. And then if you're ready to see, feel, and do something different, now is the time. And lastly, on that point, what I would say is, with everything going on right now, this is a huge indication that it is time for something different. We've had months of self-reflection. We had months of seeing and being divorced from a world as it was. And many of us during that whole time have thought about, going back into and getting back to that particular lifestyle. But when we really look at it and break it down and ask ourselves, was that really working for us?
Mhm.
We may come up with a different answer. So to answer your question more succinctly, it's a matter of first making that evaluation, taking stock of where you are, and then determining where you want to go and utilizing the tools that you already have that will assist you in getting there. And then those tools that you may not have in hand yet, that's where I can come in and help you structure the tools that you already have, and then help you to build the tools that you want to have to embody what you want to embody.
Okay, so I have to say that, how do I want to put this? Mm, thank you. That's what I want to say. I have to say thank you because I know there are a lot of people out there that are feeling what you're talking about, okay, this is not working. I have no idea where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do. And they hear new age versions of things, they hear religious versions of things, they hear ancient, historical, metaphysical, all of these big words of things, right? And that scares some people. It turns other people off. And I have to say thank you, because the thing that I appreciate in terms of the way that you're sharing the information, it's very accessible. When you said just a few minutes ago that it's a lot simpler than a lot of people think. Of course, you can go into the more complex, but in terms of getting started, it's a lot simpler than a lot of people think. And I think some people become afraid of taking a step in that direction of change because of the way it sounds and the way it looks and who's doing it and the degrees attached and all of these kinds of things. And I really appreciate the fact that you have this in a very, very accessible form, right? So that brings me to the next question that I wanted to ask you. What kinds of services do you offer to people? Please share with us the kinds of services that you offer that you feel could be helpful.
Well, I call myself the Moundbuilder, obviously, but I am a
Wait a minute,
life
hold on one
building
second.
advisor.
Wait. So I have to interrupt you for a second because I forgot I was going to mention that. So you call yourself the Mound Builder. You understand where I'm going with it? The Mound Builder, as if there
I
are
do indeed.
others, right? So I want to know, just as the poet and the person that's always into words, why are you the Mound Builder?
Well, what I embody is the mound builder. There is only one mound builder, and that is the source and the God or the Lord
Oh,
of our lives. So, as an embodier of that, I am the embodier of the mound builder. And I am a continuation in physical form of that work. All of us are, if we so choose, to embody that particular idea or identification. So, so the services that I offer is I consider myself to be a life building advisor, helping people to build their lives and to build lives that are worthy of living, to build lives that they enjoy living. So that's what I help people to do. And I do that by helping them with the process of going step by step to design and construct the life that they want and getting the right mindset and engaging in the right activities that will produce the results that they desire.
okay. All right. Would you call that life coaching or would you call it something different?
Well, that's a label that is used, but I like my label better, which is a life building advisor. I prefer that term better. I'm not much of an advocate for a lot of the labels and boxes that people try and put you in. So I kind of create my own. So that's the one that I go with.
Okay. And do you do one-on-one sessions with people? Do you have packages? How does that work?
I do one-on-one. And like I said, everything starts with an evaluation. And your evaluation, of course, is free of charge. It's just a matter of getting in touch with me.
Oh, wait. Hold on one second. You said the evaluation is free of charge?
It is indeed free of charge.
You said the evaluation is free of charge. Okay, go ahead.
And so we talk and then we kind of put together an idea of where it is that we want to go. And then we start from there. So at least get the evaluation so you can see where you are and you can see what can be offered and then make a determination from that point on.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to tell us about what you do or how you can be helpful or anything like that? I understand you are also an author.
I am an author. I have a book called Maximize Your 365, which speaks to making the most of every day and getting the most out of yourself. I also have other books that I have written forwards for and co-authored. I have about 3 or 4 books that are in the works right now that will be coming forward rather soon. And I also have a lot of information in terms of articles and posts on LinkedIn and Facebook and Mound Building Monday every Monday. So there's a number of different projects that I'm engaged in. And what I would like to say to people is to take advantage of this time that we're in right now. It's chaotic, it's a lot of stuff going on, but it's also a great opportunity for you to do you and for you to evaluate you and to come out of this as a better you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I notice you say that with a smile, like It's an exciting process. And the reason why I'm making note of that is because a lot of the time when people think of evaluating themselves or evaluating something else, they always think of it as a negative type of thing, something heavy, something dark. And when you say it, it's like your head is up, you're smiling and everything, and it looks like it's a very exciting process for you.
That's the way that life and the process of life is supposed to be. It's supposed to be engaging. It's supposed to be fun. Yes, there are things that are sometimes difficult and challenging, but the way that you face it determines how you're going to come out of it. So you want to make sure that you face each uh, difficulty or challenge, as they may call it, with the right type of disposition. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself caught up in the loop of a lot of the negativity that it takes a long time to get out of. So life is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a wonderful experience, an engaging experience, and a joyful experience. So the idea is to make sure that we make it that.
Okay. All right. And so how can people contact you?
You can reach me on Facebook at Joseph L. Jones Jr. Same thing with LinkedIn and with Instagram, or you can just put in any of those search engines, The Moundbuilder, and I will come up as well. You can reach me by phone. All of my information is on all of those search medias. Phone number 201-706-1648. That number is on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, and it's on a number of other social media outlets. So I'm not hard to reach. You can reach out to me. The sooner the better, because there's a lot going on right now. And I would love to hear from you and help you engage in the life that you most desire living.
All right. And remember, folks, your evaluation is free. And so,
It
right
is
quick
free.
before we go, do you have any closing words of wisdom that you would like to share from the Mound Builder?
My words of wisdom is to commit yourself to the process of building a life that you deserve, that is worthy of you, that is worthy of those who came before you, and that is worthy of those who will come after you. Let that be your goal.
Okay, well, that's what I tell my students is a drop the mic moment. So I think we'll close out on that. Thank you so much for being a guest and for taking some time